Look, I'm going to be completely honest with you here. This has been one of those weeks that makes any Kansas City Chiefs fan's head spin like a roller coaster, you know? Because on one hand, the management is making some quiet moves, the kind that don't make headlines right away, don't cause a huge stir, but that, if you pay attention, could completely change the face of this team. And on the other hand, there's a buzz going around the league right now, the kind that nobody confirms 100%, but everyone's watching, and that could simply become one of the most insane stories involving the Kansas City Chiefs in recent years. And look, the craziest thing about all this? These two things together are sending a very clear message. This is not a rebuilding team. This is not a team thinking about the distant future. This just looks like a team that still believes very much that it can get back to the top. And when you have a guy like Patrick Mahomes leading all of this, bro, you can never doubt it. So stick with me until the end, because I'm going to show you exactly what the front office is up to behind the scenes and what all this means for next season. Because if you blink this week, you may have missed the beginning of something very big for the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's start with one of the biggest offseason questions involving the Kansas City Chiefs. Wide receiver Rashy Rice was at the center of an investigation following accusations of domestic violence made by Dakota Jones, his longtime partner and mother of his children, and the situation gained even more weight when a civil lawsuit was filed just over a month later. But now comes the big twist. According to Adam Schefter of ESPN, the NFL decided not to impose any punishment on the player. The league itself stated that there was insufficient evidence to support the conclusion that Rice violated the personal conduct policy, while the receiver's lawyer stated that he appreciates the thorough investigation and is already focused on the start of the 2026-27 season. But here's the point that really matters, and that many people may be ignoring. Even cleared by the league, this guarantees absolutely nothing about Rice's future in Kansas City. This is because he will be an unrestricted free agent in the next offseason, and any decision about renewal depends exclusively on the franchise. In other words, the investigation may have ended, but the real judgment within the Chiefs is only just beginning. And there's a detail that weighs heavily in this story. On the field, Rice's impact is undeniable. The team's offense becomes much more explosive with him on the field, especially when he's lined up with Patrick Mahomes. And that's exactly why the big question arises that could define the franchise's next steps. Will the Chiefs bet on him as a long-term piece, or will they let this talent go? Because the answer to this doesn't end with just this issue. It can directly influence everything that comes next. After a simply disastrous 2025 season, with a record of 6 wins and 11 losses, the worst of the entire Andy Reid era, the Kansas City Chiefs know they need to act, and they need to act fast. And the main problem for this team has a name and surname: the offensive line. Just remember the chaos that was last year. Patrick Mahomes suffered a torn ACL in Week 15, was tackled 34 times in just 15 games, and the offensive line simply collapsed due to injuries. The result of all this is something we already know: an inconsistent offense and a practically lost season. But now comes the point that could completely change this scenario. There's strong evidence suggesting the Chiefs are preparing an aggressive move in the 2026 draft. According to analyst projections, the franchise may trade with the Dallas Cowboys to move up in the draft and secure a player who has been attracting attention across the league: Caden Proctor, a true giant of the offensive line from Alabama. And when we say giant, we're not exaggerating. 6 feet 7 inches tall and 350 pounds, and only 2 sacks allowed in 527 snaps. Absurd numbers for such a young player. Proctor not only dominated, but also accumulated recognition. He was a consensus All-American, made the All-SEC first team, and even won the Jacobs Trophy as the best blocker in the conference. And here's the key point of this possible trade: to move up in the draft and secure this talent before other teams, the Chiefs could offer the 29th pick, a 3rd-round pick, and also exchange 5th-round picks. It's a hefty package, but it shows the franchise's level of urgency. And there's another important strategic detail in all of this. With the arrival of running back Kenneth Walker, the running game can gain much more weight in the offense, and Proctor is exactly the type of player who elevates this aspect, as he is extremely dominant in run blocking. Claro, experts point out that he still needs to improve technically, mainly in consistency and footwork, but in an organization like the Kansas City Chiefs, which has a history of developing offensive linemen, this potential can be transformed into something special. Now, putting all this together with what we've discussed before, comes the question that connects the two scenarios. If the Chiefs can't consistently protect Mahomes, it doesn't matter who's receiving the ball. Neither Rashy Rice nor any other receiver will be able to make a difference, and that's exactly why this possible move in the draft could be much more decisive than it seems at first glance. Now let's talk about a problem that may be underestimated underestimated within the Kansas City Chiefs, but which could be costly later on. The defense simply isn't pressuring the quarterback as it should. In 2025, the team finished with only 35 sacks, placing 23rd in the NFL, a number far below expectations, especially considering that the team still has players of the caliber of Chris Jones and George Karlaftis. The reality is that Karlaftis has experienced a drop in performance, and the departure of Charles Omenihu in free agency has made the lack of depth in that area even more evident. The result is simple and worrying. Little pressure on the opposing quarterback means a much more vulnerable defense, and that's where a point that could change everything comes in. Even with this clear need, the Chiefs haven't yet reinforced this position, but there is a name available on the market that could immediately impact this defense: Jadeveon Clowney. Coming off a solid season with the Dallas Cowboys, Clowney accumulated 8.5 sacks, 22 quarterback pressures, 12 tackles for loss, and even forced a fumble. To give you an idea, that number of sacks would have been the best of the entire Chiefs roster in 2025. Furthermore, he remains a strong player against the run, experienced, and perhaps most importantly, relatively affordable. The estimated value is around $5.7 million for a one-year contract, while Kansas City has approximately $6.7 million available in salary cap space, meaning it's a completely feasible move. Of course, it's not that simple because there's competition. Another name that appears on the radar is Cameron Jordan, who is coming off an even more productive season with 10.5 sacks. But regardless of who is chosen, there's a clear lesson that the last NFL champions left us. You need depth in the pass rush. And today, to be quite frank, the Chiefs don't have that. And when we put everything we've discussed so far together, the scenario becomes even more interesting. Rashy Rice has been released, but his future is still uncertain. There's the possibility of an aggressive trade in the draft to seek protection on the offensive line with Caden Proctor, and at the same time, the defense is crying out for urgent reinforcements with Clowney emerging as a real option. All of this points in one direction. The Chiefs are at a crucial moment, and that's it, Chiefs Kingdom. We're seeing in real time one of those moments that can define the course of an entire season, and perhaps even the next few years for the Kansas City Chiefs. Heavy decisions are being made behind the scenes, moves that could strengthen this roster, and all this while the team still has one of the league's biggest assets on the field, Patrick Mahomes. So there's no middle ground. Either the Chiefs adjust these pieces now and come back strong to fight for everything, or the risk of another frustrating season is real. Now, I want to hear from you. For real, what would you do in the front office? Comment below, because I read everything and this discussion is from fan to fan. And if you enjoy this kind of direct content, without beating around the bush and with everything that's happening behind the scenes with the Chiefs, leave a like on this video because it really helps the channel grow and continue bringing this kind of analysis to you. And of course, if you haven't already signed up, sign up now because this offseason promises to be exciting and you won't want to miss out on what's coming.